Hey guys, in the next few weeks here, I'm going to be sharing my free video workshop about the most important things you can do right now to start laying the foundation for your future success. We just finished recording and I am psyched to share this with you. Just a quick teaser, the first video is going to cover how to create a personal vision statement for your life. This workshop really is covering some of the most powerful stuff that I've learned over the last few years, so I think you guys are really going to love it. To get access to the workshop once it's live, just head over to millennialmm.com/join and subscribe. I'll see you guys over there.
I used to say action begets reaction. For the first 3 years of the business, I had that plaster all over me because we didn't know what the hell we wanted the action to be. We just said, just do stuff, people. Everybody just do stuff and something will work. So I love that you said that. And you just got to start somewhere. They are hard steps, but if you think about it, like in the reality of what's really hard in life, it's not that tough.
Hello, folks, and welcome. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by Alex Membrillo in the Mastermind. Alex is the CEO and founder of Cardinal, a digital marketing agency focused on growing multi-location companies. He has been featured in publications including the Business Journals, Entrepreneur, Search Engine Journal, and the Wall Street Journal. Cardinal was named on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing privately held U.S. companies for 3 consecutive years. Alex, welcome to the Mastermind, my friend.
What's up, Brad? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to connect, and I'm excited to dive into your story. You've been making some pretty big splashes in the entrepreneurial community there in Atlanta. And as we had discussed a little bit before hitting record, here at the Millennial Mastermind, that's what we're all about, understanding what people's journeys are like and how they've made it in the entrepreneurial world and what they've found and learned along the way. So to kick things off, I would just love to understand where those entrepreneurial roots stem from. Like, what led you down this path of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so I think it really helped me growing up that I was able to see that running a business is not this a giant enigma because my family was running a small business. It was family business. We owned a pinball machine dealership here in Atlanta. And so we sold pinball machines to people around Atlanta here. And so every weekend, my family was going into the pinball store and we'd sell them and we'd deliver them and fix them and all of this stuff. And then like as I grew up and got into high school, the internet started coming around, and that dates me quite a bit. But so we started selling the pinball machines on eBay and through our website. And it was my job to sell the pinball machines on eBay and create the website and get it ranked on Google and all that stuff. So that's kind of where it all started, was seeing from my family how these things were done.
Nice. And then was Cardinal your first venture out on your own?
Yeah, it was. I had some silly high school gigs that never panned out, but it was good to fail early on. And so I went to Georgia State University here in Atlanta. And then as soon as I graduated, it was like 2008, and there were no jobs. It was a great recession. And so I went to help my dad with a little advertising thing he was doing, similar to Auto Trader for cars, and helped him with that and learned a little bit about SEO from some of the people there. And when that business went under, unfortunately, because it was mismanaged and we were working with an SEO company that didn't know what they were doing, that company went under, and I called my friend that was working there with me that I recruited, and I said, hey, man, we have a chance to do some really great things for small businesses around Atlanta. There's really no jobs out there anyways, and I got to feed this kid that's going to be born here in a couple of months. So how about we start a business helping businesses grow around town?
And so what were those early days like when you've got this idea, you've got your buddy who you're partnering up with, and you guys are starting to work on this? Where do you go from there?
Yeah, so it was nuts. I mean, it's wild. Those are the fun days, the wild, wild west days, when you don't know where your next check is coming from. You don't even know what services people will buy or how they'll buy it or how to get in touch with them. You've never marketed anything, sold anything. That's really fun. And I think a lot of people are scared and they say, I don't know how to run a business. Nobody knows how to run a damn business until you start running a business. Same same reason, it's the same thing. Like, okay, you want to be an NBA player. I don't know how to be an NBA player. They didn't either. They started playing when they were a little kid, then they went to college, learned how to play college ball. Then they became an NBA player. So you got to start somewhere. And that's what we did. We put one foot in front of the next. The day after my son was born, we started making 100 cold calls a day. And at the beginning, we thought we were going to sell web design because we were going to base the whole thing on recurring revenues from the hosting revenue that we'd get. And so we sold one website. Like 2 weeks in, someone picked up the phone, nice guy named Roger with an ice cream van. And he said, yeah, I'd buy a website. We went over there and we sold them websites, $399. It was terrible. Still feel bad about it. It was so ugly. And when we launched, I said, dude, we cannot make another website. We are terrible at this shit. Let's do something else that can actually help small business owners, because we pledged to never do what was done to my dad's company. I said, okay. Well, we learned some SEO, and I had done it. I didn't know the acronym, but I had done it in high school for my dad's pinball shop. And so I started making the 100 cold calls a day. And we'd get small businesses on the phone that had just incorporated. I got a list of all the new businesses that were incorporating around Atlanta through the various courthouses. And I was calling all of them, and one of them said, hey, yeah, I'm looking to grow my kayak business. And so we met with this nice guy named Craig at Starbucks, and he said, I want to show up on Google for kayak lessons. And I said, sure, yeah, we can do that. And he looked at me, he's like, have you done it before? Yeah, no problem, Craig. And so we went back to the lab, if you will, as a living room. And we got him number one on Google for kayak lessons and a whole bunch more keywords. And we just said, hey, maybe we're good at this, so let's keep selling SEO. And it took off from there. But I shouldn't say it took off. Like 5 years of really hard work after that. And then we started making a little bit of money.
So one thing that I think all entrepreneurial journeys include and are not complete without are their fair share of challenges and failures. So is there one of those instances that pops into your mind when you hear that might be a story that you'd be willing to share, and what you learned from that experience?
Yeah, I mean, that first pivot when the web design went so poorly was really huge for us. That was really big. You got to be ready to pivot. You have this whole business plan and someone made you write it out and put it in PowerPoint. And then the minute you launch, you realize either no one wants it or you're really bad at it. You have to be ready to pivot from day one. I got tons of stories. I can't think. Give me a couple minutes and I'll come back to a few of the really challenging ones. I'll tell you, we were cold calling when we were making all those calls for the first year or two. There would be times when my son would start crying. He was a newborn. He was born the day before we started Cardinal. He'd be crying. I'd have to hang up, call the person back and say, hey, sorry, we had interference on the phone after the baby stopped crying. I mean, crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. Getting stood up at all kinds of meetings, having fights with my business partner because we didn't know when the next check. We were on unemployment checks, getting $200 a week, and I had just started a family. And we were scraping it by every time we made a sale. I mean, we would deposit a check and put the majority into our own bank accounts because we had no food.
Yeah, that's nuts. And so what was your mentality? I mean, especially with having just started a new family, you've got a newborn in the next room or maybe the same room, and you're just trying to make it work. At that point, were you thinking that this is it, this is what this has to work? Or were you giving yourself a timeline of, okay, I've got 3 weeks and then I'm going to go, if that doesn't work, I'll try to find some job that I can go at least pay the bills. Where was your head at during that time?
Yeah, I guess everybody needs to have a fallback plan. I don't remember having one, and I don't think my partner did either. We didn't have a fallback plan. And it scares me when I meet with entrepreneurs that look for my advice and they are like, well, I'm good with my former boss, or I have this side hustle, or I'll just sell shit on eBay. And it's like, no, this needs to be your one and only plan until there's nothing left and you can't go on anymore. And then you go on some more, because that's what it's going to take. You can't have a fallback plan because it's too hard to start a business and it'll be too easy to quit and go do that other thing. And you can read tons of stories. Like Airbnb was like a couple days away from going out of business, and they should have gone out of business. And then they got a little bit of a funding at the last minute. I mean, that happens time and time again. It happened to us. So the fallback plan thing really scares me. And that's why I advise people, start a business when you're young. For all of us millennials, don't wait till you have a mortgage, kids in a house, mortgage, kids in a car, and loan payments and all of this stuff. Like, it makes the fallback plan readily apparent, and it makes you much more nervous to keep trudging on because you got a family to feed. So start now before all of that stuff mounts up on you.
Sure. And with that said, have you seen people who have been successful or have any experience with maybe mentoring folks who have made a transition from maybe even a little bit later in life, maybe in their 30s or so, looking to move from the corporate position or that 9-to-5 job and starting something on the side that then transitioned into successful business ownership?
Yeah, I think that's happened a number of times. They say that entrepreneurship is ingrained in you, and I somewhat believe that because it takes a certain kind of ignorance and confidence bordering on arrogance to make this thing work. Nobody else is going to believe in you. You have to believe in yourself. And I think the people that went corporate for a while probably just didn't know they were entrepreneurs and meant to be, and then they came over to the dark side and are much happier for it. But I think it can go either way. And in fact, I advise some kids that I mentor, I tell them, go get a corporate job at a big bank or a big whatever you're trying to be in industry for a couple years, but draw your timeline because they're going to pay you 40, 50K and it's going to get comfortable when you go down to 0K. So be very careful with how long you stay there because you're going to get comfortable. But go get the big corporate experience so you understand how the world works. Just the whole time be plotting your departure and getting your ducks in a row for starting your business.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's important to put a time frame on it. And we had a guest on the show who he had that exact time frame plotted out for him, and he didn't make the switch into entrepreneurship till his late 30s, early 40s. But the week that the day that he had given himself to is when he finally made the jump, and having that was vital for him because otherwise, like you said, you get comfortable. It's easy to say, okay, I would like to do something this quarter, this year, and that time just keeps getting pushed back and back. So I think that's a smart move.
Yeah, absolutely.
What role? So the title of our show is Millennial Mastermind. So obviously we have a lot of young folks listening, but the other piece of it is mastermind. And that's not saying at all that I'm a mastermind, but rather stems from the idea of mastermind groups and having some people in your corner who are really looking to do similar things as you, really a network or a board of advisors that can really help push the needle forward in your life. Curious, have you had any experience with mastermind groups or what role has your network played in your success?
Oh, it's critical, man. It's critical. There are so many. So you got to think about it. Owning a business is different than working at a job. When you work at a job, you have lots of peers, lots of people to go talk shit to or talk shit about and, bond over mutual miseries. When you own a business, there's no one to talk to. You can't go talk to your employees about other employees. So
you're the one being talked shit about more often than not.
Yeah, exactly. They're all talking shit. And don't go through the email and type in asshole in their emails because you're going to see all kinds of stuff you didn't want to know about. I've made that mistake once. So, it's really critical to have a peer group that you can bounce ideas off. 2 years into starting Cardinal, when we were first hiring our first few employees, I was like, holy shit. I'm actually kind of a CEO. Not really. There's no board. It's not a real company yet. But I need to learn how to be one. So I sought out peer groups. And I went and had people connect me to Vistage. It's called Vistage. And there's you'll have a chair of a group and 18 CEOs get together every month. And it was critical. I mean, this guy, his name's Larry Hart. He's been a mentor and he was the chair. He's the best in the country. And he took me on, even though I was like this 24-year-old hood rat. And I came in swearing up a storm and everybody was like, oh my God, what's with this kid? And he took a chance on me. And so for the last 8 years, I've been in one peer group or another. Basically, it all stemmed from that group. And I've been with that group for about 8 years and we bounce ideas off each other. And we've had some really tough times and they're helping you go through the layoffs that you have to impart in your company. And they're picking you up when personal things in your life happen. And so if you own a business, it's not just important, in my opinion, it's vital to the business survival to have a peer group.
Yeah, I appreciate sharing that. And Vistage is definitely a great group. What advice do you have for individuals who are not yet in that business ownership role? So they're looking to make that move. They're interested. They've got the entrepreneurial bug. But they might not qualify for something like Vistage just yet. any advice for how people can surround themselves with entrepreneurs, with people of that mindset who are really going to help drive them forward and help surround them with the people of that mindset, even though they're not in the seat yet?
Yes. Yeah, great question. And Vistage is expensive too. So even when you're at the $1 million level that they'll let you in, you still have to debate paying $1,500 a month. It is worth it. But however, so when you're not quite there and you just want to surround yourself, I've done this. I just reach out to people on LinkedIn and I say, hey, I really want to pick your brain. I'm thinking about getting a group together. Would you be open to a monthly lunch with 4 like-minded people? And if they're not open to that, would you mind me coming by every month to bounce ideas off of you, or once a quarter? And so I have tons of mentors that I found just through hitting up on LinkedIn. And they usually don't respond in the first time. So I hit them up 3 times. I'm like incessant about it. And I will send really personal notes to them so they can tell it's not spam. And I flatter the shit out of them. And people do it to me now too. I don't know why they think I know what the hell I'm doing, but people hit me up and it's time to start paying back all the help I got. And so tomorrow I've got another little agency coming in to ask me some questions. This morning I was working with another mentee with a friend of his that needs marketing help. And so it's kind of never ending. So if you want to surround yourself, it's on you. Just go start hitting people up. And you can get all the peer groups and mentors that you want, but it's on you. Nobody's going to do it for you. And you don't need to pay necessarily for anything.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And so you mentioned mentors too, and probably has a little bit of a different spin than surrounding yourself with that peer group. Is it your same approach with approaching mentors or finding mentors that might be able to help you in your path?
Yeah, mentors, like if you don't own your business yet and you haven't started one, you need mentors. So in the beginning, before you've really kicked things off, you need to get with mentors that have started businesses and are running successful ones, and they'll teach you how to get there. And then once you've hit like 500K, 1 million in recurring revenue annually, then you start forming a peer group. And you want your peer group to be people that are slightly above where you're at and are growing. Don't get a peer group full of really complacent small businesses. That's not going to help you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one strategy that I've seen people have success with is creating that peer group, being the one who organizes that and finding the people who are ahead of you, but also making sure that the other members of the group are also equally as far as ahead of you, so that those members, as you're looking to recruit new people in or attract people into the group, they are looking around and saying, oh yeah, these are people who are on my level, even though you, the organizer, might not actually be. They're interested in the other folks who are,
Correct.
And then you benefit from surrounding yourself with all these incredible people.
Yeah, you got it, Brad. And in your messaging, that's what you're saying. Hey, I've got a group with these phenomenal people. Are you interested? And they're like, well, you're kind of a slow-mo, but the rest of them sound good.
Yeah, yep, exactly. That's pretty much the story of my life summarized in one sentence.
Hey, man, that's why I have a podcast too. I'm not that smart, but when I interview smart people somehow think I am.
Yeah, it's that association is amazing concept.
Yeah, I love
it. So is there any other advice for aspiring entrepreneurs out there that you would like to give?
Yeah, I would say don't wait. You get caught up in like needing to know all of the paths to running a business. Like I didn't know shit. All I knew was I was going to go get the incorporation. Okay, so we went and incorporated the business at the courthouse. Step 2, what the hell do I do? I need a phone system to cold call. Got the phone system. Who am I calling? Go to the courthouse to get the list. One step at a time, and you'll get there. If you're nervous about the downside, map out the downside. What is the biggest downside? I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to lose my income, which is $5K a month. I'm going to spend a year trying to make this thing happen. So at most, I'm going to lose $60K. I'm going to live on ramen for a year. Is that bad? Is that really that bad that you shouldn't try this thing? Potentially regret it for the rest of your life? And I'll tell you what. When you look at the people that own yachts and all these big fancy houses across the country, and you look at the Forbes top 1,000 billionaires or whatever, how many of them have jobs or are doctors and lawyers? None. Almost none. They almost all have businesses, or they're the C-level at a big Fortune 500. So if you really want to create value and wealth for yourself and your community and help a lot of people around you, having a job where you're middle manager or anything like that is just not going to do it. So it's worth the risk, in my opinion. You're not really giving up that much for a whole lot of gain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to your point, action begets action. And just taking that one step at a time is how you start to build up the momentum to be able to figure it out like you said, nobody has it figured out in the beginning. It's all an evolving process, and you learn as you go. But you have to be able to and willing to make those hard first steps. That's always going to be the toughest part, is just getting started. But once you do, you just keep going, stay in the fight, and figure it out as you move along.
I've never met, it's funny that you say that action begets. I used to say action begets reaction. For the first 3 years of the business, I had that plaster all over me because we didn't know what the hell we wanted the action to be. We just said, just do stuff, people. Everybody just do stuff and something will work. So I love that you said that. And you just got to start somewhere. They are hard steps, but if you think about it, like in the reality of what's really hard in life, it's not that tough. And remember, go back to the downside. If the downside is $60K for a year, think about what the upside is. Wealth for your family forever, and a retirement at 45 instead of 70.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. The upside is definitely incredible. And as you come across the challenges and the failures along the way that are inevitable, if you can look at that and treat those as learning experiences, then you're going to have a lot of success as you continue down the path, as long as you stay in the fight and keep after it. And B, you're going to have some great stories to share on podcasts or, the virtual reality interviews that are going on in 10 years when you do have that success, because it's all part of your personal journey to find your own personal legend. Alex, what advice would you give to yourself if you had to go back in a time machine and talk to that young 22-year-old kid, newborn on the way, and you're just making this crazy seeming leap into starting a new business?
I wouldn't tell him that it's going to be okay, because then he might not work as hard. So what I'd probably tell him is focus sooner. So it took me like 6 years. Let's see, 2016, almost 7 years to focus on an industry, focus on a couple services we want to provide. And that really honed our marketing and sales and operational capabilities to where we're growing really quickly and highly profitable. I wish it didn't take me 6-7 years to do that. It's hard to focus on a niche and a couple services, but as soon as you can do it sooner than you'd expect, you're actually not turning yourself off to lots of businesses. You're making yourself known to that many more, and you're going to do so much better work when you focus yourself. So that's really the lesson I wish I would have learned. I've thought about that a lot lately, but hey, I learned it when I'm young. Cardinals growing like crazy, really great company. So I'm happy I learned it young. And now this business and all the rest in the future are going to remain very focused.
I love it. And Alex, if anybody wants to learn more about Cardinal or check out find yourself on the internet, anywhere you'd point them to learn more?
Yeah, so we're an SEO company. So if you go type an SEO company in Atlanta, hopefully we come up there. You should be able to find us. Otherwise on LinkedIn, me and Brad will be posting about this, but Alex Membrillo, Cardinal Digital Marketing, and happy to chat. If there's anybody out there that wants any tips, happy to shoot me a note on LinkedIn, and we'll make sure to schedule a call and help you out in any way I can.
Dude, that's beautiful, Alex. Any last advice you might want to share before we wrap it up here?
No, that should do it. Don't wait. Step one, just get shit done. One thing at a time, one day at a time. Beautiful.
Well, Alex, I want to just sincerely thank you for taking the time to join us here today, share a little bit about your journey and some of the things that you learned along the way. It's definitely great advice. Don't wait, get started, and people can check you out and find you online. We'll share that all in the links at millennialmm.com/podcast. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, Brad.